Now, a few reviews. Here's the Boston Anarchist Drinking Brigade, broadside number 12. Anarchism, communist or individualist? Question mark. Both. It's not very long. I should, if I didn't have so much to do, I'd read the whole thing. It's very, very sensible. Basically a position that I've occupied for a long time, which is to put off the whole question of economic organization of utopia until we've got until we've got utopia. In the meantime, both communist anarchists and individualist anarchists should find more in common than they do. And anyway, the Boston Anarchist Drinking Brigade, or the Bad Brigade, is in Boston, obviously. Actually, they're in Cambridge. P.O. Box 381323, Cambridge, Mass. It's MA 02238-1323. That's Bad Brigade, Box 381323, Cambridge, MA 02238-1323. Here's a nice thing. Lorraine Shine, an old friend of ours, has come out with a little book, with very handsome book, published by Wordcraft Speculative Writers Series, and it's called The Raw Brunettes. It's some of Lorraine's science fiction, poetic science fiction, I guess, if you have to classify it. It has illustrations by Freddie Bear, and it has an introduction by Rachel Pollack. All these people are dear friends and comrades, so this is a must-have for you Moorish Orthodox listeners out there. The Raw Brunettes by Lorraine Shine. If you can't find it at St. Mark's or anywhere in town, or if you can't make it into town, write to Wordcraft. I think that would do, just Wordcraft, Box 3235. La Grande, Oregon. That's two words. La Grande, Grande, OR 97850. This will cost you $6, and I suppose a couple of bucks if you want it sent first class. That's Lorraine Shine, The Raw Brunettes. It's a sort of a wild, anarcha-feminist, other worlds. It's a secret society of wild women who open up other alternative realities and move through them and so forth. It's very nice, very exciting, very readable. The Raw Brunettes, Lorraine Shine. And here's another little book. Hal Sirowitz has a new book of poems out, 2 Second Kiss, poems by Hal Sirowitz from Mulberry Press. I think you must all know Hal's stuff by now. Here's just two short ones. This one is called She Was Always Shopping. She squeezed my penis like it was a cucumber. She wasn't sure it was ripe. And then here's a question. Is lust a deadly sin if you commit it by and with yourself, or does someone else have to be there? Typical Sirowitz stuff.
Careful, the FCC is listening.
Yeah.
In this age of Gingrich paranoia.
No, it's okay. Penis is okay. Just other things you can't say. 2 Second Kiss by Hal Sirowitz. Mulberry Press, Box 1236, Harvey, Louisiana. Good Lord. Harvey.
What on earth is he doing down there? He's a regular at the New Yorican.
I know. I don't know why he's being published in Harvey, Louisiana. The zip is 70059. Mulberry Press, Box 1236, Harvey, LA 70059. Is there a price on this? No, but it's just a little pamphlet. It's handsome, and the print is nice and big. I appreciate that. But there's no price on it, so you'll have to either find it in a bookstore or query the Mulberry Press. Here's a curious item. Have you ever seen this? New Dawn, Bill?
Oh.
You know this magazine? We've heard from them over the years. This is actually very interesting. It's I call it the Muammar Gaddafi fan club zine.
Precisely what it is.
Yeah, it's published in Australia by an apparently eccentric fella. Whose Islamic name is Rashid, but I believe he's Australian. And it's a weird mix of Gaddafiism, radicalism, both left and right, conspiracy theory. Some of it's completely wacky and useless, and other articles extremely useful. There's, in fact, an article in one of these issues on the Muslims of Bosnia, which is very informative.
How interesting.
Which happens to be written by somebody that I know who's on the right politically.
Well, the whole notion of right and left rapidly breaks down.
This guy's on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still a very interesting article.
Well, particularly vis-a-vis the situation in Yugoslavia, you start finding some very strange alliances.
Strange bedfellows,
yes.
For sure. Absolutely. Anyway, I always enjoy New Dawn. I have to admit, it's a lively mix of the insane and the sensible. I happen to find Gaddafi an interesting figure.
Oh, interesting! I will grant you.
Interesting.
He is that. Yes.
I've always said I only know one other person in the world besides myself who's been influenced by both Sufism and situationism. And that's Gaddafi.
Have you been able to trace the situationist influence? Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah, we could talk about this sometime, but I suggest you go and read the last chapter in the Green Book, which is about public sports as spectacle, and is clearly influenced by thinking from 1968. Whether the guy actually read De Boer and Vannegut, I don't know. But these ideas were, they were filtering around in the 60s, and he obviously glommed onto some of them and added them to his system. So anyway, I'd love to interview him sometime.
Well, a lot of Western radicals took refuge in North Africa in the 1960s, as we all know.
Yes, and there could have been some influence along those lines.
But a very slippery character.
Yes.
Very slippery
absolutely,
character.
but totally fascinating. The whole history of Libya is really fascinating. And it is absolutely necessary to say that the disinformation and hate campaign continually directed by our government against Gaddafi and against Libya is largely disinformation and largely bull. And I'm not going to say that he's guiltless of this or innocent of that, but the things which which Libya is bombed and strafed and for which
well, I mean, Libya was for political reasons made to take the rap for the blowing up of the Pan Am.
And there's a lot of material
flight over Lockerbie, Scotland, because we were trying to, meaning our government, forgive me for using the pronoun, we had to make our peace with the Syrians, who all the evidence actually points to, because of Operation Desert Storm.
And there's anyway a lot of stuff about Lockerbie in these magazines, as you can imagine. Anyway, make up your own mind. It's certainly
But read the
fascinating.
Amnesty International reports.
Sure. Get all the sides, but at least get the Libyan side, which is hard to get.
But let me tell you, Gaddafi has got a thing for hosting these. Actually, he's been very quiet since Desert Storm, but he's had a thing for hosting these big, activist junkets in Tripoli, where he invites the American Indian movement and the people in Europe who were opposing the cruise and Pershing missiles for these big schmoozathons where they're all supposed to sing the praises of Gaddafi.
Right. Still, nevertheless, what else is
just makes him more interesting.
What else is going on in the Middle East, which is of any intellectual interest, even whether you like it or not? Anyhow, New Dawn, I'm going to give you the address. It's GPO Box 3126 FF. Melbourne, that's Melbourne 3001, Australia. And each edition seems to be $3.50. I guess that's Australian dollars, so I have no idea how that translates into American money. Perhaps you should query them. They have other nice things to get too, books about Gaddafi and so forth, which are impossible to find anywhere in America. So that's New Dawn, GPO 3126 FF, Melbourne 3001, Australia. Very interesting stuff. Okay, moving right along. Issue number 4 of Rant. This is the best issue of this magazine that has come out yet. It's edited by... Alfred Vitale, right, of course. And this issue has many, many people in it, myself included. That's not why I'm telling you it's the best issue ever. It just is the best issue of this magazine that's come out so far. It also has Voltairine de Cleyre, Jill Rappaport, Dave Mandel, Robert Anton Wilson. Let's see.
Dave being no stranger to these airways, of course.
Yeah, right. Jim Feast, Sparrow, Hal Sirowitz. The usual suspects, in short, but all doing their best, and very nicely printed, very legible, handsome layout. This magazine is definitely coming of age. I hope that Vitale can keep it up for a while. I certainly suggest, if you haven't become acquainted with the magazine, this issue number 4 is the one to do it with. So again, I think it's at St. Mark's, but if it isn't, try writing directly to Rant. That is, by the way, the theme of the zine is ranting. Everyone is supposed to be in a very loud tone of voice here in this magazine. Box 6872, Yorkville Station, New York, New York, 10128. The price on this issue is $3.95. That's Rant, Box 6872, Yorkville Station, New York, New York, 10128. Quickly just draw your attention to the fact that the latest issue of Gnosis is on healing, but the interesting thing in it, which I'm sure you'll all want to get, is the special report on the Solar Temple, which has all the manifestos and interior documents from the Solar Temple, so you can read their literature and come to a more or less first-hand opinion about what the heck it was all about. So that's the last, 10 or so pages of the magazine are devoted to the Solar Temple. Very, very interesting. Gnosis magazine. Get it at any New Age bookstore, or write to them at Gnosis, Box 14217. 14217, San Francisco, California, 94114-0217. That's Gnosis, Box 14217, San Francisco, California, 94114-0217.
I definitely need to pick that up.
Here, take it. Let's give it back.
Well, I'm going to need to pick up my own copy anyway. The Solar Temple people were completely ensconced in the elites of Hydro-Quebec.
Yes, yes, you can find out all about that in here.
The utility which is building the massive James Bay hydro complex. And flooding the traditional homeland of the Cree Indians in order to sell the electricity to us down here in New York City. Very strange. I mean, there were like
totally bizarre. I don't know.
Hydro-Quebec bigwigs who died in this whole suicide cult thing.
Yes.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that whole Canadian political aspect, but there is information, there is documentation on it in this issue of Gnosis. So
I think that it follows the money. That's my own personal theory, because a lot of Hydro-Quebec, is underwritten by French capital, European capital, and it's based in Switzerland, actually.
Well, yes, that's one of its bases. I think it was just as based in Canada as it was in Switzerland, in French-speaking Canada. Curious, very curious. Alrighty. I think I may have mentioned to you that the Unbearable Beatniks of Life did a Brooklyn Bridge special event on Brooklyn Bridge, and the Big Fish magazine has collected all that material from the Brooklyn Bridge event, and the Big Fish presents the Unbearables Assembly magazine, Brooklyn Bridge Temporary Autonomous Zone issue. And if you want to get that material, I think you could get it directly from Ron Combe, our maximum guru of the Unbearables, Ron Kolm, and you could write to him at 30-73 47th Street, Long Island City, just LIC will do, New York 11103. That's Big Fish, Brooklyn Bridge issue, Ron Combe, 30-73, 47th Street, Long Island City, 11103. A fun event it was. By the way, the Unbearables have been in the news lately. Apparently, what is the name? What's that pink newspaper? What's it called?
The Observer.
The Observer did a story on Sparrow and the New Yorker and the Unbearables, and now I understand the New York Times Sunday Magazine apparently had something about it too.
This past Sunday?
Yeah, I haven't seen.
Interesting.
I haven't seen the articles
because that was the same day that they had their front cover story, New York Times Magazine front cover story
on pot,
on marijuana. I mean, it looked like the front cover of High Times Magazine.
It certainly did. It was.
I couldn't believe my eyes.
Yes, it was the kind of soft-core pot picture.
Hardcore, I'd say. Hardcore pot pornography. It's like it was our own photographer. It was High Times photographer Andre Grossman, sure, and another
world's leading pot photographer.
Yes, among certainly up there in the top very few. And there was another shot inside by another High Times photographer, Gabe Kirchheimer, of the Cannabis Cup, which is the annual event that High Times throws in Amsterdam, where they taste the best cannabis that Amsterdam has to offer. And And
I'm waiting for Zero Boy to get back from Amsterdam.
Yes, he's there currently.
He went to cover that event
for the Cup, and he stayed.
Never came back.
He stayed behind
They never came back
as High Times agent in Amsterdam, as a matter of fact. But hope I'm not blowing his cover here, but. It strikes me as utterly surreal. This is the America of Newt Gingrich and Pat Buchanan, and here it is. Max brings it into the studio. Right. The listeners can't see it, but there it is.
Hey, maybe George Soros is paying them off.
The sexiest bud shots this side of High Times Magazine. I'm telling you, in the New York Times Magazine, the New York Times Sunday Magazine, in the America of Newt Gingrich and Rush Limbaugh and Pat Buchanan. Strange times we live in.
Not exactly coming out for legalization, but not exactly coming out against it either.
Oh, no, far from it. I thought the piece was fairly good, actually. Yeah. I mean, it was fairly critical of the hubris of the government's efforts to try to eradicate a plant.
Yeah. Anyway, I haven't seen the story about the Unbearables, but there's this whole.
So the Unbearables are in there too.
Crazy scandal about Sparrow getting his poems accepted by the New Yorker, and now the next thing is we're supposed to have a purge trial of Sparrow, condemning him for selling out
to the bourgeoisie.
And we're going to purge him from the Unbearables, and we're going to have a big public excitement over the whole thing. Anyway, the press seems to be taking an interest in this game. Okay. Well, I've just had a look at this article on poetry. It doesn't really add anything new, and this is incredibly offensive. Look at this map of the poetry scene, the poetry pantheon, who's who in the poetry world, which doesn't mention anybody interesting. Bly, Adrian Rich, and Seamus Heaney.
Oh my, aren't we jaded?
Oh, Lord. Anyway, I'll keep you updated on the Unbearable Purge trials. AK Distribution Catalog, very excellent, huge selection of anarchist books. They're in San Francisco now, not in Scotland anymore. And their address, AK Press, is Box 40682, San Francisco, California, 94140-0682. And if you want to give them a call and ask for this catalog, call 415-923-1429. That's AK Press, Box 40682, San Francisco, California, 94140-0682. Telephone 415-923-1429. It's hard to make all this data interesting, but we have to get it crammed in here somehow. Oh, before I forget, I should mention this Irish magazine that has the interesting article on Jacques Ellul by Ivan Illich. Is called The Aisling, Aisling, and it's published by these really far-out Catholic radicals who live in the Aran Islands, and I visited last year. Father Dara Malloy. When I asked Father Dara Malloy what his relationship with the church was, he said, "The church? The church is the enemy." So I said, "Oh, all right." I don't know what he's still doing in the church, but anyway, that's his deal. It's an interesting magazine, green, Christian, anarchist, and very, very Celtic.
in the church as a concept rather than an institution, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at our friends at the Catholic Worker. I must admit I've never really been able to understand their position, but hey, I'm sure they don't understand mine either, so big deal. The Aisling, A-S-I-L-I-N-G, write to them at Innismore, I-N-I-S-M-O-R, Arran, A-R-A-N, County Galway, G-A-L-W-A-Y, Ireland. And actually, you could even telephone them. That would be exciting. 099-61245. Speak to Father Dara himself. 099-61245. New issue of Religion Watch, the newsletter monitoring trends in contemporary religion, one of our very favorite zines. They're already up to volume 10, number 4, here in the February issue. I have a lead article on Muslim America dividing along observant, non-observant lines. A little article on the Lubavitchers and how they're waiting for Schneeman, what's his name?
Schneerson.
They're waiting for Schneerson to be reborn. This is the news from the Lubavitchers, and then a little piece on Sufism, and the usual. Oh yes, a fascinating story on Scientology and their internet story. You know about this? They've been running an internet site, and then the internet site was taken over by anti-Scientologists, and now they're trying to sue them, and usual bad
It's
karma.
very messy and arcane.
Usual
yes.
bad karma connected with Scientology. Article on how Bosnia is really not falling under the sway of fundamentalists, but rather traditional and moderate Islamic forces, etc., etc. Always very informative.
There's a great deal of paranoia about there's just an article in the New York Times about it, actually, about some odd 200 veterans of the Afghan Mujahideen who are fighting in Bosnia.
Well, the article comments that a lot of those people are vanishing. They were there over the last few years, and now they've apparently found that they are not going to be able to.
So, in other words, they're fed up with the secularists and they're going back to
apparently
Saudi Arabia and wherever else they come from.
I guess so. I'm sure not all of them, but anyway, it says that trend is diminishing. Oh, also an interesting piece about the problems of the Hare Krishnas in England, which is an ongoing story. Okay, Religion Watch, box 652. North Belmore, 2 words, North Belmore, B-E-L-L-M-O-R-E, New York, 11710. I always say this is one of the few zines that I really feel that all the listeners should be getting, because it's so close to a lot of the subjects we discuss here regularly. Religion Watch, box 652, North Belmore, New York, 11710, edited by Richard Cimino. Skip that. Let's see here.
Well, that was something about Sufism.
Well, yes, it's just, all right, I'll mention it. It's the latest issue of the Sufi Review from Peer Publications, and it's actually really more or less the book list for the Sufi bookstore. And the Sufi bookstore is at 227 West Broadway. And the telephone number is 334-5212, 334-5212 in Manhattan, area code 212. And they have an ongoing speaker series, and they have a magnificent selection of books on Sufism. And that's why I don't go there very often, because I would lose all my money. These books are not cheap, unfortunately. You cannot run a specialty bookstore in New York and offer any bargains. And I understand that. It's just that I can't always afford to go there as much as I'd like to. Here's an interesting zine, H2SO4. That's an alchemical reference, according to the editor. It's actually edited by a collective, and if I had to characterize it, I read through these issues, or at least skimmed through them with great interest earlier today. If I had to characterize this magazine, I would say it's slacker, 20-something in origin, but very, very different from the usual kind of slacker stuff that you're going to see in that these people actually seem to read books and to enjoy thinking about philosophy in a kind of strange way. So that, for example, in each issue they adopt a different philosopher and have that philosopher write a Lonely Hearts column for them. In this issue it's Heidegger, and in this issue it's Schopenhauer. Advice to the readers from Schopenhauer.
Advice on what?
I don't know.
Like for the lovelorn?
Yeah, it's just it's a funny take on philosophy. I would say that these are, this is slackerism, but these people are so cynical that they're even cynical about cynicism. So they're kind of coming, back to a kind of more, I don't know how to put it.
They're cynical about cynicism.
They're cynical
you don't
about...
get much more postmodern than that, do you?
No, you don't. But that then funnily, oddly enough, somehow you
come out the other side.
Come in the back of the barn door, or something.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and I see some definite hope here. I see some definite intoxication with beauty and, interesting trends from an otherwise very much slacker tone, of a kind of witty, cynical, bummed out tone, which is very common in a lot of zines now, but this is the most intelligent version of it that I've seen. So I would recommend H2SO4, and it's from San Francisco, box 423354, San Francisco, California, 94142. That's H2SO4. It's what is that? Sulfuric hydroxide? It's something that you use in alchemy. Anyway, H2SO4. Box 423354. San Francisco, California, 94142. How are we doing? All right, might actually get somewhere here. Mercury Art Link, a zine published by one of our faithful listeners. And I hope he's put his address in here. Yes, there it is. This issue has a review of Holy Madness by George Feuerstein, which is about crazy gurus. And then it has a short story. And that's about it in this issue. An article on imaginary worlds. It's edited by Ellie Christopher, I believe, and Mercury Art Link is the name. Yes, L.E. Christopher, box 450, High Falls. That's two words. High Falls, New York, 12440. This is very, very much an amateur zine, but it's also, I have to give them credit for carrying on with it. This is already volume 2, number 6. And he who persists, even if it's folly, he will become wise. Mercury Art Link. Okay. Here's a curious little thing. Have you seen this? Insight Information, News Analysis and Inquiry. I don't know why I'm on this list. It's a conspiracy and sort of damned news, damned political news.
Damned?
Well, damned in the sense that it's, you're not going to get it.
Blacklisted.
Yeah. Let's see, just in this issue, for example, Washington monitors Arab boycott, Jackson attacks Christian coalition, investigators track letter bomber, chicken ad angers baseball manager, strange death of a former yippie, about Jerry Rubin, Arafat shuts down Gaza newspaper, Turkey steps up war on Kurds, Oswald interviewer linked to CIA, Reagan wooed Saudi royal family, counterpunch lands potent left jab.
Reagan wooed Saudi royal family?
Yeah, as in,
well, it just sounds... sounds rather redundant.
And a little article about Guy Debord's suicide. And so interesting stuff, I would say, probably from a capital L libertarian point of view, by and large, but without prejudice against good sources from the left. And I found it it's a tiny little zine. It's only 8 pages and it's very small. I found it quite interesting. This is number 28 already, so apparently it's been around for a while. If you're interested, write to Mark Hand, I guess that's the editor, H-A-N-D, Box 326, Arlington, Virginia, VA 22210. That's Insight Information, I-N-C-I-T-E, Information. Mark Hand, Box 326, Arlington, Virginia 22210. Luke McGuff, an old science fiction underground comrade, we published stuff from him in the Autonomedia science fiction issue, has a new little zine going called Project Z, an irregular personal zine from Luke McGuff, although it has more to it than most personal zines. A lot of sci-fi talk and what have you. If you remember Luke, you'll probably want to get back in touch with him, and here's a chance to do so. Luke McGuff, M-C-G-U-F-F, Box 31848, 31848, Seattle, Washington, 98103-1848. That's Project Z, or Z as the British would say, Box 31848, Seattle, Washington, 98103-1848. Also from out in that part of the world is Talking Raven, the Journal of Imaginative Trouble. This is a special issue, Winter 94-95, Volume 4, Number 3, special issue on terror. And in fact, it's quite a good issue. Always a very, very handsome zine. It's what do you call this format? Tabloid format. A lot of art by James Conline and other good West Coast artists. And always interesting material from Antero Ali, the Finnish madman, who now lives in Port Townsend. I first met him in Boulder years ago, and he played the piano in the dark, in a completely dark room while somebody danced. It sounds ridiculous, but it was actually one of the most gripping performances I've ever seen, because you hear this piano, it's a dark room, and you know that this woman is whirling herself around. You can sort of feel the vibrations. And it's a completely dark room, so you're in a total panic that she's going to smash into the wall or something, you know. It was a very, very gripping performance. Anyway, Antero's brilliant. He's quite brilliant. Talking Raven, Box 161. Nice short box number. Box 161, Port Townsend. That's two words. Port Townsend. Townsend. Washington. That's WA. 98368. 98368. Telephone number is 206. Area code 781-5691. That's 206-781-5691. Talking Raven, Box 161, Port Townsend, Washington, 98368. Richard Kostelanetz, another listener, if I may be so bold, has a new book out called Minimal Fictions. And when I looked at this book, I spoke to Richard and I said, gee, you know, you call this stuff fiction and yet it looks just like your poetry. He said, but it has periods. So there you have it. It's Richard's avant-garde fiction. And if you think it looks like his poetry, you're wrong. Minimal Fictions by Richard Kostelanetz. Actually, there's a lot of real entertainment in here. A lot of real entertainment. Published by Asylum Arts. My golly, they don't give an address. Gee, that's very stuck up of them, I must say. Well, anyway, Richard Kostelanetz, Kostelanetz. Minimal Fictions. I'm sure that they have this at St. Mary's. They've got to have this at St. Mary's. And that's the best I can tell you. Lacking an address.
Must be some kind of minimalist statement.
Well, you know, whenever I've see that a publisher has not put their address in the book, I always figure that they're thinking that they're like the Oxford University Press or something. You know?
And who is this press?
This is not the Oxford University Press. This is, I think I've forgotten it, Asylum Arts in Santa Maria, which I presume is out west somewhere. And that's it. That's all the information we got here, except for the Library of Congress catalog number. Anyhow, that's the best I can tell you. And if Richard, are you listening? You might give us a ring and tell us how to get hold of the book. Here's a comic book which was sent to me by the author, Joe Chiappetta, or Chiappetta, if it's going to be pronounced the Italian way. I guess C-H-I-A would be Chia, rather than Chia.
I believe so, yeah.
Joe Chiappetta. The name of the comic is Silly Daddy, and it's a sort of amateur American splendor, if that situates it for you. And as I was reading along with some entertainment, the life story of this rather hapless hippie, suddenly we're in Chicago at a comic book convention, and Zahn, who's the 6-year-old son of Mikkel and Liz at Dreamtime Village, suddenly shows up as a character in this comic book, and he's at the Zine convention, and he's wandering around selling his own zine and boasting that he's made over $50, which of course is much more than most of the actual comic book people and zinesters made. So, and he's very well drawn. You can actually recognize that it's Zahn. It's very cute. I like that. Silly Daddy. If you're interested in taking a closer look, try writing to Joe himself, Joe Chiappetta, Chiappetta, at 2209 Northgate. One word, Northgate. North Riverside, that's 2 words, North Riverside, Illinois, that's IL 60546, or call him up at 708-447-3437. 708-447-3437. Ask for Silly Daddy. Okay, moving on. Here, wait a minute. I want to do something while I'm on the subject of comics. Here it is. Fly has a new comic out, a new issue of Indoctrination. Maybe the best yet. Beautiful color cover. The whole issue is taken up by one of her extraordinary dream sequences. She really is the artist of the grunge punks of the Lower East Side. I don't know if that's such a large category, but it's a very definite category. Fly is certainly the spokesperson for that world. And I recognize, she lives right across the street from me. I recognize a lot of neighborhood jokes here. Very, very elegant pen. Her black and white gets clearer and crisper and funnier all the time. It's far out, but it's also hilariously funny. There's a sequence here where she and her great boyfriend, Dog Boy, are trying to kick each other's butt. And it turns out that they're both wearing iron butt protectors. It's silly, but it's funny.
Yeah, she's up here with her notepad and her pen every Wednesday night on Paul Rienzo's late night show, Let Them Talk.
She never stops drawing, and this is why she's great and why she will succeed, because talk about persistence, Maloli, and her notebooks are splendid. Have you looked through them?
Mm-hmm, sure.
Really, really good. Actually, better than anything she's able to print, because she uses color in the notebooks, and she's very good colors. As you can see by the cover of this one. So this is, I don't know, Indoctrination. I don't believe it has a number. If you want it, you could try getting it at Ink, which is at 66th Avenue A, or at Blackout Books, which is at 50 Avenue B, or you could write to Gargoyle Mécanique, that's Gargoyle, Mechanique, Box 1318, Cooper Station, New York, New York, 10276. That's Fly, care of Gargoyle Mécanique, box 1318, Cooper Station, zip 10276. She says, sometimes I am out of the country, so please be patient. In fact, she just went on a tour of Japan with that rock group, what is it called? God is My Co-Pilot?
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And she's also a member of a group called Zero Content, which is, I think, my favorite punk rock group at the moment, because their songs are all under 1 minute. Some of them are as little as 10 seconds long. I have the honor to have actually composed a lyric for that group. And it goes, I can't remember, it's something like the architecture of the rich makes me uneasy and queasy, or something like that. And that's the whole of the lyric. Let's see. I'm just going down the pile here. Now we're at extra file.
Well, you've got some 13 minutes to go.
Right. We're not going to make it. Hold on a minute. Let me practice a little triage here. Make sure I get to the stuff which is new and important. All right. Just in case I don't get to the bottom, I've made a few shifts in the order here. I just want to quickly tell you that Autonomedia has succeeded finally in reissuing Bolo Bolo by PM. This is one of our best-selling titles of all times. It's a classic of utopian thinking, and it's a new edition with an author's apology for, he's apologizing because in his original version of the book he promised that by 1995 we would actually have Bolo Bolo, and his timeline is not working out as planned. Nevertheless, the book Nevertheless, the book is still as enjoyable a read as it ever was. It's kind of like somewhere between science fiction and utopian writing, and very, very entertaining, very imaginative. I won't bother to explain all the details. I just want to tell you that it's back in print from Semiotext Foreign Agents, Autonomedia. Bolo Bolo by PM, and I do strongly recommend it. Sparrow, speaking of Sparrow, I should have mentioned this earlier. He has an issue of Appearances magazine, number 22, which is totally dedicated to his work with the cartoonist Blair Wilson. It'll take you about 3 minutes to read this, but it's very good. And Sparrow's poems are very short and usually very funny. Sometimes they're so kind of bland that you don't get it. You don't get the joke. I think that's what happened with the New Yorker, actually. They accepted these poems by Sparrow because they didn't realize that they were actually satires of New Yorker poems. But anyway, this is Appearances. It's called Test Drive. It's a special issue devoted to the work of Sparrow, and Appearances magazine can be acquired directly from St. Mark's Bookshop is where they seem to want you to get it. Oh no, I see, that's just an ad for St. Mark's. Where the hell are they located? Appearances. Okay, I've got it. 165 West 26th Street, New York, 10001. Appearances, 165 West 26th Street, New York, 10001. Oh, I just noticed this is typeset by Dave Mandel. He really does keep popping up.
Yes.
There, doesn't he?
Our fellow Crusader and WFMU DJ.
Right.
And in solidarity with Sparrow, I would just like to say that if I were ever so lucky as to have the opportunity to sell out to the bourgeoisie by having my work printed in the New Yorker, I would not hesitate.
No, and I don't blame him at all. That's not the point. The point is that he's worried that his colleagues will think that he sold out. So this is why I suggested that we have this Stalinist purge trial, and drag his name through the mud and, denounce him in no uncertain terms.
And then he can go back to work with a soul as clean as the morning snow.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
After confessing everything in the public dock.
That's it. That's it. And besides a Stalinist purge trial, it sounds like a lot of fun. As long as it doesn't end in anybody's death. Here's an interesting zine from England. Huge zine. Full of teensy-tiny type. And I must admit that I actually started to hurt my eyes and read it because it turned out to be quite interesting. The zine is called Hoax. And that's what it's devoted to. It's devoted to pranks and hoaxes. So there's a certain, what can I say, kind of almost subgenioid goofiness about it. But at the same time, they do cover a lot of interesting stuff.
So is Piltdown Man in there?
Oh, no, this is all political pranks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's like, that's what the purpose of it is to...
Are the protocols of the Elders of Zion in there?
No. All right, I'll tell you what's here. We've got Emperor Norton, Live Like Him. So I guess the Brits are going to find out about Emperor Norton. Then we have Situationism, a primer, which is not bad. We have Principia Chaotica. I guess that's probably from
so we're talking about pranks more in the tradition of the merry pranksters.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. A very funny letter column called Hate Mail. And on, and lots of things clipped from newspapers, which are apparently pranks, but it's hard to tell, and ideas for pranks, profiles of pranksters. Here's some people who are trying to build an Egyptian temple on the Isle of Dogs. It's just crazy.
6 minutes, Peter.
Crazy stuff. Okay, 6 minutes. Really quite enjoyable. And it is available from Hoax, 64 Beech Grove. That's one word, Beechgrove. If I'm not mistaken, this word is pronounced Aberhondru. It's in Wales. Aberhonddu. Let me spell that for you again. Aberhonddu. Next one, Powys, Powys. Cymru, or Wales as we know it. That's Cymru if you want to be politically correct, otherwise Wales. UK, LD3 9ET. Right, that's a complicated one. I better give it to you again. Hoax, 64 Beech Grove, Aberhonddu with a double D and a U at the end. Powys, Wales, UK, LD3 9ET. The Moorish Orthodox, the Moorish Science Monitor, the new issue. This is volume 7, number 3, winter 94-95. By me, here is very happy this finally got published, a cartoon version of Horace's satire number 8, Priapus and the Witches, with cartoons by E.J. Barnes. And I'm very, very pleased, very proud of that. It's a lot of fun. And other good stuff in it, too. This is from, this is our house zine, you might say, although it's published in Rochester, New York. What else does it actually have? Priapus and the Witches, Tom Metzger, Psychic Driving, James Conline, the usual, all the usual Moorish offenders are here. I really, really strongly recommend that you subscribe to this one. I don't often make that recommendation, I'm very, very
judicious.
Very judicious, but in this case I have to say not only is it our house zine, I also think it's a brilliant zine. And it's available, it's the Moorish Science Monitor, available from Ziggurat, 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 box 25193. Rochester, Rochester, New York, that's N-Y, 14625. Ziggurat, box 25193, Rochester, New York, 14625.